Hi, welcome back to the Weekly Why. This week we are on Parsha Beha'alotcha, which is actually the Parsha we started last year. And when the Weekly Why first started, we've only been online for a few months, but the Weekly Why started a year ago. So this is the first Parsha that we ever started. So for those of you who are with us this whole time, glad to have you still with us. And for those of you who are relatively new, we're glad to have you on board. So this parsha, we examine a number of things. It's we're making our way now through the book of Bamidbar, the book of Numbers, which chronicles the Jews' time in the desert. Now, part of the parsha, the beginning of the parsha, has to do with the Mishkan, or the tabernacle. Tabernacle was like the traveling temple in the desert before they were in Jerusalem in the real temple. It discusses some of the things about the menorah that was to be lit. We discussed a little bit about Pesach Sheni, a second Passover, for those who missed the first one, who weren't able to bring a Passover sacrifice. There are a number of other issues as well. One of the things I'd like to talk about, though, is the Jews complaining, which is not, unfortunately, an uncommon theme in the Torah. But here we have the Jews complaining about the manna. The manna was the bread, or the bread-like substance, that came from heaven, and that fell in front of the people every day. And this is what they ate when they were in the desert, okay? Now, according to the Midrash, which is like a Jewish homily, this food became whatever somebody wanted to eat. If you wanted to eat steak, it was steak, or it appeared and tasted as steak. If you wanted something else, that's how it would taste to you, okay? Now, what the Jews say in the 11th chapter, in Numbers chapter 11, verse 4, they start complaining about the manna. They say, we don't have any meat. Back when we were in Egypt, we were free and we had these foods and we could eat all these different things. And they say, we were able to eat onions and garlic, and they name a few other foods, but they just want to focus on onions and garlic. So basically the Jews are here now in the desert, and they were complaining. They're saying, we're so beholden to God, we have to take this manna every single day. In Egypt, we actually had meat, And so there's a few ideas here. So according to one idea, that is that we mentioned that the Midrash says that this food tasted however they wanted it to taste. And that basically, though, is that if somebody wanted it to taste a certain way, but that food was unhealthy for them or bad for them, God didn't allow it to do that way. For example, pregnant women were not allowed to, even if they really wanted to, they couldn't make it taste or become onions and garlic, because it's bad for, nursing mothers, right? So the whole idea is that they couldn't have that, and God's, let's say, culinary, interest is not superseded by his genuine humanitarian interest, right? So if somebody says, I really want, this thing which is unhealthy for me or not good for me, God's not going to give them to them. So the whole idea in this Jewish teaching is that the Jewish people, or that the women, the pregnant women, were not allowed to get onions and garlic because it was bad for them who were nursing, okay? And so we can start to understand a little bit, therefore, okay, now we understand why the Jews are complaining that they didn't get garlic and onions in the desert, once they had left Egypt. But of course, begs the question, though, this is raised by Rabbi Mordechai Kamenetsky. He says, well, hold on a minute. If it's just the pregnant women who can't eat the onions and the garlic, why not just ban it from them? I mean, if the regular 99% of the people, or whoever, how many were not nursing mothers, well, they certainly could have eaten it. Why couldn't it just be the people who couldn't eat it, right? People who are diabetic couldn't eat, cake even if they wished for it. Somebody who's lactose intolerant couldn't have a glass of milk, even if he was, even that's something that he wanted. So again, why doesn't it just given to people who can eat it and people who can't eat it? It seems to be a lot more straightforward and makes sense. And I want to tell you a story that kind of hopefully should give us some clarity on this issue. Rabbi Abraham Tversky, he's a psychiatrist and a rabbi. He tells a story about a very poor man, Eastern Europe presumably, and his family is very starving, and he goes to a rabbi hoping for a blessing, that will help him with, with parnasa, with, a livelihood. He's really struggling. So he goes to the rabbi and he asks, he says, listen, my family is we're really struggling to get by, I'd like a blessing for wealth. So the rabbi says to him, take all this food, go and purchase all this food, this very luxurious meats and things that you really would need on, every day, and take it home and eat it. But don't share it with anybody else, only eat it for yourself. So this gentleman goes home, and he starts eating this food, and it's killing him inside. I mean, his wife and his children are standing there, they're starving. and he's eating there, and he can't even eat. He's getting sick to his stomach, and he does it one day, and he does it 2 days, and eventually he goes back to the rabbi, and the rabbi said, "That's why I didn't give you the blessing right away, because now that you understand how others don't have something, hopefully it puts things into perspective. Would you really want something when nobody else has it? Could you really be happy and feel satisfied when you're consuming something when you know that nobody else and those people around you, those members of your family, don't even have that same thing?" And then he asked the man, "Do you want wealth?" And the man says no, and he walks out. So that's the whole idea here, and I think we can draw the parallel is that, yes, the Jewish people, the 99% of the Jewish people could have had the garlic, and they could have had all these foods that, let's say, the nursing mothers couldn't have. But it's the whole idea here is that Judaism teaches us so much about Judaism is about teaching us sensitivity about others, sensitivity about how we act, how we dress, how we talk, how we think. And so this should teach us sensitivity about our neighbors, our community, the Jewish people, right? Even though we personally may not or may be able to eat a certain food, let's say the garlic and the onions, but out of deference for those other Jews who can't, we do not do it. We do it out of strength of, community, and build that relationship with other Jews to know that we're all in the same boat together, So again, hopefully the lessons for us today should not be to, for example, abstain from things, as let's say they did then with the foods for the pregnant women. But today it should give us an appreciation for what we have, and when we have an appreciation for something, especially the value and the wisdom and brilliance of Judaism, then hopefully it should teach us to to share it with other Jews. Again, how can we really enjoy something as much as we could when we know that most other people, most other Jews aren't experiencing it the same way? So my blessing and hope for all of us is that we can really think, and we can and connect and pray with the idea how much we truly appreciate what we have in terms of what everything that Judaism has given to us, and hopefully we can, when we appreciate it, we can share that with other Jews as well. Okay? Best wishes, Shabbat Shalom, God bless.